Hey, YouTube. How's the government supposed to work, or how does it work to some degree? Basically, it's in the very beginning the consent of the people to the government, to those who they elect to government. They consented that they could have, basically a rule over society. I mean, they're not above society to a degree, but they have the ability to make laws or whatever the position that they're voted into, like if they're in Congress or if they're the president or if they're something else. But individuals in government, regardless if they're state, local, or federal or whatnot, they're given these a large amount of responsibility to represent the people and to go along with the guidelines, which is the Constitution of the state or the Constitution of the country. Hopefully, it's both. And so there's supposed to be proper checks and balances with this power, and we're supposed to be able to vote in the people that we want, so that we can, actually have a representative. I mean, isn't that the whole point about being free people? So we don't just have a bunch of people get together and just rule over the masses. But that's kind of the idea about government. I don't really think that's what's happening now currently by any means, but it's supposed to work is that, like we said, it represent the people, uphold the social contract with the people, and this social contract, the outline is, of course, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, among the other local laws and, of course, the state constitutions. But what's really happening here, people, is there's a group of people. And there's different levels, different kinds of groups too. It's not just one group, but there's definitely there's types of people that are very well organized, and they have a lot of societies, and they have lots of groups within groups, and a hierarchy, and they work together to accumulate and compound power throughout cities, states, countries, even, and to create networks. And this is very dangerous because the people lose the influence over their own future. They don't have the ability. Just for example, I mean, look at the election right now. This is a couple months before the main election here in 2016, and here in the United States, and we have Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I mean, seriously, do these people really represent the people? Is this our best people going forth? I mean, of all the people that could be picked in this country, and there's a lot of very smart people, I mean, seriously, it's kind of shocking, that we have these two people that are what's left. It just doesn't make sense to me, but of course it's not supposed to really if you have a logical mind, because this is all set up. I mean, we just saw clearly lots of evidence, massive evidence. I mean, it's just, it's not even really even a question that the Democratic Party totally just gave Hillary Clinton, what she needed. You could probably argue, well, the whole thing about Bernie Sanders, he didn't even have enough votes probably. He probably still wouldn't have won, blah, blah, blah. But there's been so much conspiracy against the guy. I personally do not like him. Bernie Sanders is just, he's a socialist as they go. People try to say, well, he's a, democratic socialist. I mean, what the hell is that? When you're a socialist, and you're for big government, and it's kind of a top-down approach. And things that he said and stuff is just completely off the wall. The government is not your daddy. They're not supposed to be responsible for us, and you shouldn't be forcing other Americans to pay for other people's programs and their needs. It's just totally ridiculous. Like we've talked about in the past. Just like the public school system. For example, if you don't have anything to do with the public school system, maybe you never were part of the school system, and your family and before you, your parents never used the school system. But you have multiple generations of families that have been paying in to the public school system, and you've never had nothing to do with it. Why are you paying for something that you don't even use? It's just completely ridiculous. Now, of course, the social architects of this all, they make arguments like, well, it's the well-being of society. We got to have, that's just your input. That's your contribution. They try to compare it with the roads or public services and stuff. It's definitely quite a difference, just like they have various free libraries throughout the country. Now, a library, may or may not be free in your area, but in some places is considered free. But when you look at it, it's so not free because they force a tax. They force a freaking tax on you, on everybody. So it's definitely not free, and that's just another form of a socialist type of activity. If you want to join the freaking library, maybe there could be a very small dues, and you pay your dues a year and you get your little library card. I'm sure it wouldn't be that much, $5, $10, $30, even $50 if you used it a lot. It sure would be a lot cheaper than to have maybe a book club, or if you couldn't get internet at your home and you had to use the internet at the library. Man, it's still a lot cheaper, $50 a year. Hell, even $100 might be worth it for a lot of people. But the whole thing, though, that like if I don't use the library, for example, I still got to pay for it. Unbelievable. There's a lot of this stuff. It's just very socialist. And some people say, well, it's been like this for a long time. The art of prepping. Well, where have you been? Obviously, I know about this, people. But it's in there, and of course they like to cite things like, well, Social Security, for example, isn't that kind of, socialist? But don't you like it? No, I don't like Social Security. I think that's just a fraud. There's many, many people. In fact, most people either die or they die within a few years of getting this, and they put way more in than they get. Of course, that's how the system is rigged. And this whole thing about the Social Security, though, you should never be forced to participate in any kind of social retirement, anything. That should be your responsibility and your responsibility only. Why do we need the government to help contribute or create any kind of safety net for our retirement? Why do we need them supposedly telling us what we should and should not do and teach with our kids? What kind of foods we should and should not eat? Obviously, they do a piss poor job with all this. Our education systems rank some of the lower ones in the world for a developed first world nation. Our food and water is horrific. The fluoride and all the chemicals in our water, the GMO foods, all kinds of the growth hormones, the bovine growth hormones in our food. Unbelievable. MSG everywhere, artificial flavors, bullshit after bullshit. And FDA says, hey, man, it's safe. And, the Department of Education or whatever, man, it's good to go. Kids are learning. Oh, really? Beep, beep, beep. That's all I can do. I don't have anything else to say. I just wow, the standards are freaking low in this country. It's ridiculous, but I'm supposed to pay for all this crap. And then, of course, chronic unemployment and everything because of, a lot of the policies in America. But just look at all this. I'm supposed to pay for Joe Schmo across the street or whoever because they don't work or they haven't had a job. Why is that my fault? Why do we have to have people on welfare or some kind of subsidy systems for years, if not decades, and they continue to get it? This should not be allowed. This is total abuse. There are people and even generations of families, literally generations that never have worked. They just receive they're like professionals. They've conned the system for generations, and a lot of these people are lower educational people. But it's not like they don't have some opportunities. It's not like they couldn't make some changes. But that's of course just my opinion. I'm not in their shoes, so. I just don't like all this social welfare and socialist activity because it's the next greatest and biggest thing is going to be Marxism is the next thing. And then, we just have a totalitarian system. So going back to Donald Trump and my conclusion with Hillary Clinton, I don't like either one of them. They do not represent the people. They are just unbelievable liars. They flip-flop from year to year. They tell you what you want to hear in some level, but then if you look a little bit deeper, they're just blowing smoke up your ass. So this is a very sad year for the elections. I'm sure you feel this way, the same thing, and you probably don't even want to hear this again and again. This is just like a small commentary about my thoughts on this because sometimes in my circle, a lot of people don't want to talk about this kind of thing, and so I thought maybe I'd just share it with you guys. And if you have any kind of thoughts, or not, whatever, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, but. There's just a lot of things going on in America that are un-American, and how much more of this is going to be sustainable before we literally lose what's left of the American way of life, the American lifestyle, our heritage, our customs. And I just think it's all slipping by. People are connecting less with people, with other people, with even people that they would consider that they're like, people of their own age or their own race or their own language or whatever. They can't even connect with them. And if you can't even connect with your own type of what you call people, and I don't like that word so much, but you got a lot of certain types of races that like to say, oh, that's my people. Well, if you can't even get along with your people and you kill each other, man, you're definitely probably not going to get along with other type of people. So I'd say let's just go ahead and get along with everybody and quit, fueling all these race fires. And it's so ridiculous, First and foremost, if you're here legally, we're all freaking Americans. And that's it. Case in point, period, end of discussion. Who gives a living crap about where the freak you came from or your ancestors? Now, I mean, it's important for you personally, but you should not be judged on any of this stuff. This is ridiculous. That, everybody wants to talk about, that I'm this or that. They put these hyphenated words onto the American part. You know what I'm talking about, and so this is not necessary, I mean, you don't hear, white people going, well, I'm Anglo-Saxon American, I'm European American, Scottish American. You just don't really hear that, you don't really hear it. At least I don't hear none of that, and check this out, I'm white. So, go figure. But, yeah, I think there's a lot of identity problems in the nation. The country has lost a grip of who they are and where they're going. And it's just a free fall, free ass chaos, a cluster of beep. And I think we're going to continue to have more of it because values have dropped and people's personal opinions of themselves and their neighbors and their family. Personal relationships are in the shitter hole. And if you can't even get along with your own people that, considering like, your family members and friends and maybe neighbors, good luck trying to build relationships with other countries and trying to build better ties to help our economy, educate our kids and, get the daggone crap out of our water and our food that's killing us. And don't think that there isn't some kind of conspiracy that, that isn't part of some of this cancer, the rise in cancer. I'd say the great majority is based on the toxins in our environment. It's obvious, and it's all put in there on purpose. For the most part, yes, there's some pollution issues from time to time in different areas, but the great majority, I think, of our real toxicity is just right in our face where we eat and drink, and the stress levels in our body, and even the cell phones, even what I'm using right now, is putting off radio waves, electromagnetic, power in my freaking face. And so, does it contribute to cancer and tumors? Who the hell knows? But I wouldn't doubt it, though. So you guys be safe. I'll catch you on the flip side.